Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Finals.
Finals time. One more match.
Dax on both sides, Jace is on both sides. Seems
Force
to make
wills,
seems
missteps.
to make Notion Thief very important.
Oh, totally. Notion Thief seems like the totally key to this game, which is why I gotta like Robert Greene's side. Like, he's just better set up for this matchup. I mean, I guess
just the raw power of Forbidden Orchard Oath.
Yeah. I mean, I say that he's better set up, but it's like, would you rather have Oath of Druid or Notion Thief? You'd probably rather have Oath of Druid, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Oath of Druid's cheaper.
It's
a lot cheaper, and there's 4 of them versus the 2. I don't know. It's that's what the battle comes down to.
Yeah.
Like, they've both got the blue control shell, but one guy's got a couple of Notion Thieves, which have amazing combo synergy if you get to pull it off. The other guy's got Oath of Druids.
Yeah.
One of them is going to have this.
Here we go. Let's see if we can get it properly in the frame here.
There's the Mox Emerald. Art looks just super sweet.
Yeah.
I love the sort
Just
of
incredible.
green nature of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's very
The
in color.
horns, the skull. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. A great piece. I think whoever wins it will be thrilled to have it. I mean, they've really gone a long way with the reimagining of some of the vintage staples. The Moxes in the past, the Time Walk, Time Twister, Ancestral, all very popular. Many of the first round through with the art that's featured in Magic Online. So, no, it's really great. So, I'm sure it'll be a couple minutes to get them set up. The Engineered Plague in the sideboard for Robert Greene is very interesting. I mean, if you bother to bring it in to name spirits.
Interesting. That is interesting. 3 cages are also interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, Notion Thief seems good here. Consecrated Sphinx seems good here. Vault Key seems good here. But yeah, Oath. Not only is Oath good, you know what else is good for Brian Kelly? Dragonlord Dramoka.
Yes.
Guys, like, no, none of this playing spells on my turn stuff.
Yeah.
Forget about that. We're done with that part of the game.
Notion Thief, adorable. Yeah, Dragonlord Dabrocus just says he gets to see Notion Thief coming.
Yeah, Control versus Oath is always interesting. I mean, there's sort of like the first 2 turns where the Oath player is trying to just jam out an Oath.
Right.
You know, show me a Force of Will.
And then they both just settle in for the long game.
But yeah, if an Oath doesn't resolve in the first 2 turns, we could be here a while.
Yes.
At least a lot of turns. And Brian Kelly, fairly deliberate pace of play with that Divining Top last game.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's a lot on the line. You want to make sure you're not making any mistakes.
Robert Greene is the 7 seed, right? Brian Kelly's the 1, so it will be Brian Kelly on the play.
I have a feeling that has mattered a lot, the seed. But I could be wrong. I mean, he did manage to break serve against Paul in game 3. So, I mean, in that 2 out of 3, the person on the draw won twice.
Yep. It matters, but it's not the game. It's not the whole thing. Plenty of other things that also matter. Do we know how long they're going to be? Certainly. Should we pull up the chat and do a little more Q&A?
Sure.
Last chance.
Sounds like they're probably 5 minutes away. Batterman's deck list people are asking for. Yeah, he didn't make top 32, right? Top 32 decks are all going up. And Stibbs, is he done typing? I don't see him banging. Well, I guess he's in the feature match area watching the final. Getting ready to watch the final. I would think Danny would also be posting something about that deck.
What's your guys' favorite vintage deck?
Question is, what is our favorite vintage deck? Of all time? I'm gonna answer of all time. My favorite vintage deck is Necro.
I mean, currently,
in the day-
I think it's Bomberman with Tasigur for me, but
Okay.
back in the day, Necro.
Back in the day, you know what was fun? Was killing people with Mirror Universe by necroing to 0 and then exchanging life totals.
Oh, sure.
That was my deck circa, 1998, 1999.
I mean,
Death didn't used to be checked all the time. Death was only checked at the end of the phase. So you could go to 0, then Mirror Universe to exchange life totals with somebody. It's kind of awesome.
I mean, one of my favorite times in Vintage was during the Magic Invitational.
Sure.
So I'm working with John Finkel. I still played a lot of Vintage back then.
Oh,
Type
I love
1
this
as
story.
they called it at the time.
Yep.
And Control was such a huge portion of the format. We were just looking for cards that could end the game. And we're like, okay, like Urza's Rage. I mean, you usually...
Uncounterable deal 10.
Right, like there's a good chance they're at 10 or less, and maybe it just ends the game.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, you know what? We don't have enough time to test this out. Let's just try and obliterate. Like, well, you just end up staring at each other nonstop. Most of the Control matchups just end up mana shorting your opponent, starting a counterspell war on their turn so you can amnesia them. That was how all the Control matchups ended up back then. And we just decided to try and obliterate. So he's playing Mike Long, who's also playing Control.
Okay.
And I had played quite a bit of Vintage with Mike Long before that. So their Control lists are very, very similar. And they get exactly into I mean, actually kind of went down the road. Mike Long certainly taught me a lot about Vintage back in the day.
Sure.
Goes
Dude could play.
goes
I
down.
mean, there's plenty of other issues going on too, but he could play.
Goes down to a script. I mean, they're both just laying a bunch of lands. All of a sudden, John just kind of slows down on the lands. They both have a handful of cards. It doesn't seem totally out of the ordinary. And all of a sudden, John
Stopped
just
at,
sacks his
say,
Lotus.
8.
Yeah, no, he had a few more. I mean,
Okay.
he kept it interesting. But oh, he didn't even sack the Lotus. Excuse me. He just tapped his Moxes, tapped some lands, obliterate, and Mike doesn't float any mana. It's just incredulous. Picks up all his cards, throws them in the graveyard. John follows up with Lotus,
Okay.
Yawgmoth's Will,
Oh my.
Lotus, all 5 Moxes, land, Mind Twist your hand for 7.
What? Obliterate, Yawgmoth's Will, Mind Twist you for 7?
Yes.
And this is at the Invitational.
This is at the Invitational.
Is this the Shadow Mage Infiltrator
This
year?
is one of the matches that leads to Shadow Mage Infiltrator. I believe.
Awesome. That is spectacular.
One question: what are the ramifications of the Vancouver Mulligan to Vintage?
Do you think the Vancouver Mulligan is going to change Vintage much at all? The new Scry If You Mulligan?
It's certainly interesting, but I just think it improves it. I mean, it allows some of the TPS decks or Belcher decks a little bit more choice. I don't think it goes crazy. It's not like a Dredge deck can stop mulliganing, hoping that first Scry hits their Bazaar. I really just feel the Vancouver Mulligan rule is just an improvement.
I do too.
I do believe it helps some decks more than others, but I think it's just an improvement.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change the decks that people play. I don't think it's going to lead to any metagame shifts. I just think it's more games will wind up being interactive and interesting.
Yeah.
What Origin cards did you expect coming into this week?
Question is, what Origins cards did we expect coming in?
I knew some people would try out Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, I knew people would try out Hangerback Walker.
I didn't expect it to be this successful.
Jury was out in my mind. Like maybe Hangerback Walker's a thing. I mean, it was like we're going to find out.
Yes.
Because I'm sure people would have tried that, and if it was good, it would make the list. So, turns out Hangerback Walker is good. I think Dark Petition might be a little better than I first thought. I think that's probably a real card.
I mean, it's still 5 to start it.
It is, but it's a 5-mana Yawgmoth's Will. It's a 5-mana Necropotence, right? It's 5 mana to go get a restricted card out of your deck and BBB to help cast it.
I mean, and as Reed mentioned, it is great off of Mind's Desire.
Yeah, I think it's a Storm card for sure. But like Storm lists over the years, they have played a lot of Cabal Therapies, right? I mean, not Cabal Therapy, Cabal Rituals, where you hit threshold and now you've got a ritual that makes 5 mana for 2, right? I think that the idea of going back to sort of a ritual-heavy dark Storm deck, rituals and Cabal rituals with a bunch of Dark Petitions, that might just be good.
It might be great. Other Origins card. Go ahead.
How do you see Vintage changing after this weekend?
Do we think Vintage changes much after this weekend?
Brian, the 2 lists in the finals both seem like a blast.
Yeah.
If they
these
can
are cool
really
decks.
hold up regularly to Dredge and Shops, maybe it opens up the format a little bit.
Yeah, I don't feel like anybody has broken the format.
Right.
Right, Danny Batterman thinks maybe he broke the format with a better version of the Belcher list, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's just, okay, it's a slightly better version of the Belcher list.
Yeah, he was
still super soft to shops. It's still really powerful against a lot of other things, but still can be beaten.
Yeah, he was still 5-3.
5-3? Okay, I didn't see the final record. That makes sense.
Oh, no, that's not, I mean...
Oh, 5-3 drop.
No, I don't know if he dropped. He was 5-3 when I checked with him after round 8, and I didn't check again.
Got it. Yeah, Menendian is the one who I saw who sounded the happiest about his deck. He only lost once. I mean, 2 unintentional draws that he claims would have been wins if he'd gotten another turn. But, he took the kind of Grixis-y Pyromancer deck and went a little bigger and a little more broken. Put in the Yawgmoth's Will, put in some more of the sort of over-the-top restricted cards. I think that there's a lot of viable decks. Vintage is in a decent spot. Maybe Shops is a little too good and Hangerback helps it yet a little bit more. But I don't think that anything fundamentally changes it.
No. No, I think Vintage just stays very, very similar.
Agreed. I mean, the biggest thing that's going to shake up Vintage is if the Workshop deck does get a restriction at some point.
Yeah.
That, I think, will be the biggest change.
What surprised you about yesterday's top 8?
What surprised me about yesterday's top 8? You mean the day before yesterday's top 8? The day before yesterday, there was a Legacy tournament.
Now that we've crossed past midnight.
We have. Who made top 8 in Legacy? Who won that tournament?
It's been a long time.
It was a long time ago.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah, the raw size, again, is the thing that's been most surprising to me. Legacy at 744 is just gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a long time in Magic where GPs didn't approach that number.
True.
Just touch on your thoughts on what's going to get banned better. What should get banned better?
I do think that R&D will take a look at the Workshop decks. I feel like it has become a little bit oppressive, both in paper. I mean, it's not, there's only 2 here in the top 8. It didn't make the finals, but it's everywhere, and everybody has to just revolve around it. I think you look at Magic Online, and it's an even bigger part of the metagame. I think it is a little too oppressive. I do, like, if I had to predict, I would predict that Chalice of the Void gets restricted.
Right.
I think that is likely to happen in the next, I don't know,
you see the
3 months, 6 months?
You see the prevalence completely skewing sideboards.
Yeah.
You see it changing people's deck construction. I mean, some of the Jeskai control decks, the Planeswalker control decks I saw, were starting to move away from Preordain and hang in there with Impulse. Like, they're starting to change up their spell mix. You see Mystical Tutors just disappearing from the format.
Pretty much. A lot of that one's mental misstep, though.
Right, but I mean, Chalice for one doesn't help.
Sure. And it's just, it's good in an uninteresting way. It's just, you don't get to interact with it. It just says you don't get to play.
Right.
Which is not the way in which Wizards R&D has been trying to push Magic, right? You look at the Mulligan rule, and their whole goal is just to have more games where people get to interact with each other and play Magic.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say Chalice is the one where the deck is still completely playable. I mean,
and you think they'll act? I mean, there's sort of 2 parts to the question, right?
No, I don't.
Will they act, and if they act, what would they do?
I don't think they'll actually act now.
Okay.
Because it's hard to justify on it skewing deck construction from a sideboard point of view, because Dredge probably skews it more.
Sure.
I think people are in the 5 or 6-ish range on Shop's hate cards with 1 or 2 in the main deck, and then 7 or 8 in the sideboard.
You want to know the thing I would do if I was still in that room? I would unrestrict Thirst for Knowledge. Why is Thirst for Knowledge restricted nowadays? Like, look at the card drawing cards that have been printed since Thirst for Knowledge was restricted, right? Dig Through Time is unrestricted. Now maybe they should take a look at Dig Through Time. Doesn't change things dramatically because people kind of only have room for 2 digs, maybe sometimes 3 digs in a world where you also get a Treasure Cruise.
And I actually think dig is part of battling against Shops.
Sure, but let Thirst for Knowledge exist, right? The worst thing that happens is that people play Control Slaver again, and you can Goblin Welder something cool into play. That sounds great.
Yeah,
that's the worst case. I mean, that's actually kind of the best case scenario in my mind. You get sort of another flavor of a blue deck, sort of a bigger blue deck. I think Thirst is. It made sense. There was a point. Everybody was blue. The Control Slaver deck was actually the best blue deck at a point 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's been some time.
Yeah, I don't think
Chromox was restricted for a long time also, as we talked about earlier. So
yeah, I think Thirst is actually the I mean, it feels like a very safe unrestriction. Like, it doesn't break anything. It's just, it's been outclassed by recent card drawing cards.
the 4-mana spell, the
Gifts Ungiven.
Gifts Ungiven,
which changed very little.
Was more dangerous than Unrestricting.
Agreed. More dangerous, also more interesting, and did not break anything.
Yeah, and nothing changed.
Coast is clear, unrestrict thirst for knowledge. So that's my safe unrestriction. You want to know my risky unrestriction that I think would be cool enough to try to defend?
Go for it.
Unrestrict Necropotence. What happens?
Yeah, bad things.
You sure?
How are those interactive games? How does that make Magic more fun?
I want there to be the card advantage Necro deck rather than the combo Necro deck.
Just the Hymn to Turoks and Sinkholes here and there.
It's probably not going to happen. But I mean, that would be the goal of an unrestriction like that. Would be to try to create, kind of a cheap spell aggressive black deck that can just refill its hand and keep trying to disrupt the hell out of you. Like there's an interesting deck there. Now the problem is I think Necro is actually way more just more powerful in combo decks, and those games don't actually become interactive. But I told you it was the sort of like weird, the controversial. Can I defend this one?
Yeah, I mean, and the problem is if it's not combo, if it's just the more grindy, I turn one sphere, like it's just total nightmare.
Sure. Looks like Brian Kelly just realized, oh yeah, I should sideboard.
Oh, yeah.
I need to do some more shuffling.
He has a 59 card deck. He's trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh, he has a 59 card deck. So he needs to figure out which card's missing.
So did he figure out what's going on?
He wasn't the one who had permanent stolen last round, so presumably he gave back the ones that were not in his sleeves.
Right.
Don't think Paul Mastrano walked off with any.
No, you don't usually have Grafdigger's Cage and Sphere in play on your side
Adds an
of
oath
this
player.
deck.
Yeah.
What's your favorite budget deck?
What's my favorite budget deck? I've never really tried pauper formats. I've never really parsed formats in terms of
vintage
budget decks.
Oh, okay.
It's just not a way
Now
that...
it's infect.
Sure, I like it. Yeah, we do know the budget decks. There was a tournament here. I mean, there was a set of prizes for the people with the best records for budget decks. It was actually a landstill deck that put up the best record. 7-3, snuck into the top 32 to kind of double dip on the prize structure. But yeah, the 6 and 4 budget decks here, there was kind of a Boros Hate Bears deck, a Death and Taxes deck, and an Infect deck.
The person that just have the guy with 61 cards give one to the guy with 59 cards.
That's funny.
What's the deck that could use some help to get to the top tables?
What's the deck that could use some help to get to the top tables? I mean, other than Control Slaver, which I kind of already made the case for. My biggest complaint about Vintage lately has been the lack of a mana drain deck.
Sure.
But there's mana drains in the finals. There's 3 mana drains in Robert Greene's Grixis Thieves deck, so you can't say it needs help. It might win the World Championship right here. I didn't think you could build a viable mana drain deck in a world where the Pyromancer Delver sort of cheap cantrippy stuff is so efficient.
Yeah, and it's incredibly powerful.
I hope he's right, and he's in the finals, so he might be right. Are they keeping those hands? All right, let's get down to the match. Welcome to the Vintage World Championship final match. Brian Kelly on the left of your screen has piloted his take on an Oath of Druids deck. It's a little crazy. It is Dragon Lord Salvager's Oath of Druids. Robert Greene, also a very teched out take on a blue deck. Grixis Thieves. The Thieves in question are Notion Thief and Dak Faden.
We get a good look at the hand.
Yeah. Gitaxian Probe reveals 2 lands and a Mox, Flusterstorm, Mana Drain, Jace, Force of Will. Those are some cards. Now, there's a window here. We talked about the way this match is going to play out. If Brian Kelly can slam an Oath of Druids into play quickly enough, that can just win him the game immediately. He's the one who has kind of the combo finish.
Right.
If Oath of Druids does not get into play on Brian Kelly's side in the first couple of turns, then it's a control fight. And now settle in for a long game where Robert Greene is probably better set up to eventually set up some crazy Notion Thief shenanigans and take control of the game that way.
Yeah, Brian still has to keep tapping mana, trying to develop and trying to finish the game, and then you end up in a strange situation where all of a sudden, like a Notion Thief comes in and
no land for Brian Kelly. Mox into Divining Top.
Time walk off the top.
Time walk off the top, which means he's going to have Mana Drain available to him on a second turn. And Mana Drain, he can Mana Drain anything.
Now.
Oh, he has Jace? Emerald off the top, Jace the Mind Sculptor in play on Robert Greene's turn 2. Wow, apparently he's the one with the combo finish who can put crazy good permanents into play on turn 2. Does Brian Kelly have a Force of Will?
But I mean,
You have to force Jace if you have it. Even if you know there's an enemy Force of Will, I think you force. And Robert Fate Seals. He looks at the top card. He says, you know what? I want 5 loyalty on my Jace the Mind Sculptor.
wow. Yeah,
I mean, there's no lightning bolts in
what
Brian's
I mean.
deck, right?
Nope.
And they have deck lists.
there's a couple of Pyrite Spellbombs.
Oh, Pyrite Spellbomb, sure, but Pyrite Spellbomb doesn't kill a Jace from 3. It's an Ancestral Recall for Brian Kelly, which Robert chose not to force a will. And now here's a Preordain. Yeah, I mean, if Robert gets to untap with Jace in play, he's got Mana Drain, he's got Force of Will.
I mean, does he not fight the Ancestral there because of how long his opponent thought about the Jace? He just figures if he forces, he gets forced back.
I don't know. I mean, he's in such better shape if he gets to untap with Jace and get his Mana Drain online. Maybe he doesn't want to fight a fight now.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to fight a fight now because then he has Mana Drain and Flusterstorm and...
Yeah, there was a blue floating for Brian. So Flusterstorm was available. So Robert untapped with Jace in play. Jace on 5 loyalty. He used Fate Seal.
Land, a Crypt.
Right. Puts them back on top. Takes the Underground Sea and... Wow. He's just building to the ultimate, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just... I don't need...
Who needs
I don't-
extra cards?
I don't need any more than this. I have Mana Drain, I have Force of Will, I have Flusterstorm. How are you going to get rid of this before I just ultimate it?
Crazy. Jace plus. Just heading straight for the ultimate.
No time to waste. There's a library. You know, we'll see if he activates the top and then draws a card and then replays the top. No. I mean, if my opponent wants to Mana Drain or Force of Will my top, I think I'm okay with it here. I mean, it's kind of tough, but...
Is it Demonic Tutor?
Indeed.
Yeah. Promo Judge Foil, Demonic Tutor. What are you Demonic Tutoring for?
I mean, once you're on the ultimate plan, typically I would say Time Walk.
That's what I was
but it's
thinking.
already in the graveyard.
Yawgmoth's Will.
Snapcaster.
Snap back to Time Walk. Hilarious. Straight to the -12. How funny.
Yeah. Just not messing around.
This is not the way you would have played this chase, right? I mean, it wasn't my first instinct, but it looks totally reasonable.
It's so far past my first instinct that I'm not sure I would have considered it, but I'm not here saying it's wrong.
Right.
This.
What are Brian Kelly's answers in his main deck to this chase? He has Pyrite Spellbomb. He has... Does he even have main deck Pyroblast? I don't see one. The Jace is just like, it resolved, it's permanent, let's just go win the game.
Yeah, let's stop messing around. I'm not sure it matters what you go get, but what do you go get? I mean, it's just Grizzlebrand? How does your opponent beat a Grizzlebrand in your deck?
No, Jace the Mind Sculptor Ultimate. Exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player
I'm thinking
shuffles
the
his
one
or
that
her
you searched
hand
through in
into his or
test
her
one.
library.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, their hand becomes their deck.
Yeah, I'm
And then like
mistaking Jace
five-ish-
Ultimates here. My apologies to those at home.
Five-ish turns later, they're decked.
Wow.
And it's minus 12. So he's what, 2 turns away from having 13 loyalty? Dak Faden. Interesting. What does that do?
Maybe it just starts a fight.
Yeah, it gets mana drained, right?
Well, I mean, you're looking at this. He's got a couple of Force Wills there.
Alright. Mana drain. Ooh, he's on the library. And has a Flusterstorm. Can't force a will Flusterstorm. Although you can let the Flusterstorm counter your mana drain and then force the Dak. Robert also has a Flusterstorm, but no blue mana left. So mana drain is countered. Do you want to force a will this Dak? What does it even do? Stealing a Mox doesn't seem super relevant. Basically gives Brian the ability to start plussing.
All right. The Ruby.
Steal your Ruby. Done. Robert still gets, he's on the Snapcaster Time Walk plan.
Which now gets to attack Dak to death.
Funny. That is funny. Yeah, we know Robert Demonic Tutor for Snapcaster Mage. Brian Kelly does not know that. A Mana Crypt for Robert Greene. Snapcaster with a colorless floating. What do you think? And now Robert's got Flusterstorm mana and Force of Will, so he's ready to defend this.
Right,
This is what he really cares
cards.
about. Oh, he only has it's just the Force and the Flusterstorm. Got it.
And
Two Force of Wills
Brian
would stop
Kelly
this.
has 2 Force Wills, but I mean, is it
Does he have 2 blue cards?
really cash in 4 cards for Snapcaster Flusterstorm? I guess you don't have a whole lot of choice here. You're talking about it
I
going,
mean, Jace goes to 11.
Then up to
Time Walk,
13.
it goes up to 13.
and it kills your Jace.
Yeah. Right, the Snapcaster not only flashes back the Time Walk for Jace, it also kills your Dak Vaden. So here's Flusterstorm on the Force of Will. Can Brian Kelly force again? He does.
He does.
And Robert Greene does not have any cards left in his hand to use with this Force of Will.
Just the Force of Will.
I mean, he's drawn nothing with Jace, right? If he'd been Jace brainstorming, he'd have cards left, but he also wouldn't be threatening to win the game. Really interesting game.
Yeah.
Jace up to 11. Library tab.
Right. You want to have as many cards in your hand as possible when the ultimate goes off.
Well, he's actually library for colorless mana. Like the Force of Will fight means he's off the library plan.
Okay.
I misunderstood it, but he was using the colorless to activate the Divining Top. He's actually
Yeah, he's
only
down
got
to 3
4
cards.
Here's Gitaxian Probe, stays at 4 cards, sees a Force of Will. Okay. No blue card to go with it. Does have the mana to hard cast it next turn.
Wow. I've never just seen somebody hit the gas on Jace before.
No, me neither.
I'm going to put off the ultimate for a turn.
Pyrite Spellbomb does, in fact.
Has he done anything with the greatest thief in the multiverse yet?
No. Here we go. Plus. Yeah, I'm just so used to people using Jace to win via card advantage. You just get so far ahead on cards that nothing else matters. This is kind of neat to see.
Yeah. It's not very often you see a Ruby in play and someone considering it a Ruby.
You know, admit, I don't think I like this line. I mean, it's been interesting, and I'm not trying to reject it out of hand.
Yeah.
But
I really can't imagine what kind of advantage could have been garnered by...
He could have brainstormed four times? 4 brainstorms is a lot of brainstorms. Just 4 cards in hand. Would have had a blue card to go with his Force of Will, so that Snapcaster would have resolved and killed a DAC, and he could have time walked, which would be a 5th brainstorm.
Yep. When he thinks he knows his opponent's hand, does he just drop an Oath here just to have it in play? Oh, wants to...
Here's a Jace of my own. You can't counter this. You have no cards to go with your Force of Will.
And then...
Now, how does Brian Kelly play his Jace?
I'm guessing it's just brainstorm and get that top back in play?
Yep.
I mean, he can flash back the Ancient Grudge to take out that Crypt.
Can resolve an Oath of Druids. No Forbidden Orchard. So no creatures to trigger it, but now he's an orchard away from being able to do crazy good things. Declines the Ancient Grudge. Even. Does not deal damage, because that's the way the world works.
Well done, sir.
Jace keeps going up. Needs a 3rd die.
It's a good sign when your Jace needs a 3rd die. I can't say that I've ever had that happen.
I don't think I've ever ultimated a Mind Sculptor. It's just not.
I've ultimated a Mind Sculptor, but I think it was just the 12, or when I went to get up to that many, they just conceded.
$13 loyalty on Jace the Mind Sculptor. Robert Greene can activate the ultimate next turn, and Brian's got what, like 1 card in his hand? Yeah, 1 card in his hand. Now, Pyrite Spellbomb obviously fends it off for a turn.
So, who do you think's the favorite here?
I think Brian Kelly is a favorite.
I agree.
I mean, I think that despite the fact that Robert is threatening to reduce him to a 2-card library.
Yep,
Deck goes up. He gets to see so many cards this turn. I mean, Pyrite Spellbomb, if it wasn't for the Pyrite Spellbomb, I would have Robert as the favorite. But I mean, the fact that Brian's got 2 turns to deal with this Jace. Forbidden Orchard, I guess none of his creatures are hasty. He's so far ahead on cards. There's got to be some way to deal with this, right?
Right. It's one of those things. It's such a strange feeling. It's when it's at Jace in play for turns, getting to do whatever it is they want. And I'm not sure they're a favorite.
All right. No ultimate yet. Down to 11 loyalty. Mana Crypt flip. Robert, First Blood, falls to 17. Jace going up.
Okay, can we just use the 10-sider for 10?
Can I have 3 dice? 10-sider has to be a 1. Forbidden Orchard is in play for Brian Kelly now. So all the cards that he found last turn, he found the Forbidden Orchard. He's able to give Robert a Spirit token at the end of Robert's turn. So Brian is planning to activate Oath of Druids.
I think the Salvager works out good
That
here.
Salvager's just what he wants, right?
I mean, Grizzlebrand works out pretty good
Does
here.
it?
I would think. I mean, I would think with the 7 extra cards, you should be able to shake something loose.
Yeah, but you're on like exactly Pyrite Spellbomb Salvagers to deal damage to Jace. I mean, it's game 1.
No, but you're also on just having Grizzlebrand out and having a hand of 10 cards when he ultimates Jace.
Okay, that's fair. It's hilarious that, yeah, Grizzlebrand drawing 7 as a response to the Jace ultimate means you get like 10 turns to attack with your Grizzlebrand.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't usually take that long.
True story.
You may even activate him again after you attack.
Steals the Emerald with Dak.
That surprises me. Yeah, I'm much more on the drop to 3. Dak to discard some more cards. Jace to look at some more cards. Get ready for that ultimate. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate's probably
your opponent
happening.
has been on the ultimate plan since turn 2. Well, after the time walk, their 3rd turn, but since your 2nd turn.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to have an opportunity to sculpt the hand that's going to become my deck. Oh, he could just be playing the other deck.
Okay, that's why he went minus.
It's
By that.
possible.
He also kind of wants to find the other spell bomb.
Isn't it in the graveyard? I think he already discarded it to deck.
Oh, I didn't notice that. So we need salvagers if he wants
Oh wait,
to.
did you just go past it? I missed it. I guess it could have gotten put back with Jace too.
Continues to attack Robert's mana. Flashing back Ancient Grudge.
Well, he doesn't want him hard casting the Forcible he knows is in his hand.
Fair. And Robert floats the 2 mana, so.
Probably have an attack step incoming.
Yep. Clear your mana pool.
Well, he's going to draw the cards. See
Yep.
what happens.
Robert has no lightning bolts. He has 1 lightning bolt in his deck, which is now lethal.
And so running Grizzlebrand on your own turn means there are only 7 cards left in the deck. But it gives you a lot of cards you can draw to do something silly.
Time Walk would be pretty good.
Yeah, Time Walk would be incredible.
I think he found it. There it is. I think.
Let me try and force
Robert
it a
says,
little bit.
nope, I'm still trying to get the Chase Ultimate off. Force Will your Time Walk. I have a Flusterstorm, says Brian Kelly.
There has been a lot of spells this turn. Now, I don't know if there was an attack step declared to clear the mana pool.
Of the 2 colorless that's floating? That's a good point.
I have to believe that there was.
Should have been.
Well, also because he removed Force of Will to cast Force of Will as opposed to hard casting it.
Sure.
Does he just, I pay for it. Are they deciding how many spells this turn? Do we know how many spells we're looking at?
The Force of Will, the Walk,
The Jet
Jet is 3.
and the Flusterstorm, so it's at least 4.
Yeah. Robert Greene down to a lone Mox Sapphire. Brian Kelly resolving a force has now resolved the Time Walk. So Grizzlebrand gets his attack on.
Right, gets his attack, puts him back to 9. Gets to...
You don't attack Jace. I mean,
What?
you might attack Jace.
No!
You take the ultimate away. There's a
Let
Jace
him
that's ready to
ultimate.
go
You're-
ultimate.
You're going to have 13 cards in your hand. Let him ultimate.
You lose your hand. It's discard 13.
Your opponent has 1 card in hand.
I understand. I'm just saying I like my chances better if Jace doesn't go ultimate.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't win the game where Jace goes ultimate, and like maybe you have some personal achievement that you want to unlock. I beat a Jace ultimate.
I think at that point you just want to show your opponent, like, okay, you got there.
I don't want him to
Didn't
know
matter.
that. I want him to believe, oh, it was so close.
So close.
If only you'd had 1 more turn. Yes, try the Jace ultimate plan again next game. Repeal. Oh, backbreaking.
Ouch.
Robert Greene played the entire game to Ultimate Jace, got it to 13 loyalty at 2 different times, never actually got to push the shiny button.
took a line to Ultimate Jace and just missed.
Wow. So Brian Kelly up a game.
All right,
Are we
here
gonna
we go.
have Oath of Druids go back to back?
We certainly could. I mean, drastically different Oath of Druids decks.
Yes.
But,
And
I mean,
drastically different metagames.
but a vintage staple. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
True.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Oath can take on a wide range of opponents.
True story. Now, how much changes after sideboarding here? I mean, it's control on control. It's not like these guys. I mean, both guys have lots of dredge sideboard cards.
Mm-hmm.
Both guys have lots of workshop sideboard cards. None of those are relevant to this matchup. I mean, maybe if you're on the not Bomberman side, do you bring in any graveyard hate to try to bust up the combo?
Like, I think you bring in a spell bomb.
Okay.
Like-
the one Nihil Spellbomb. You can cycle it.
You cycle it. It affects people's digs. Like, I mean, it can set back a few different cards. If it happens to be in play, they're not going to Bomberman you. Well, actually, it doesn't really stop Bomberman very well. They just activate the Salvager again.
Sure. If they have the mana.
Right.
Do you bring in Engineered Plague to turn off Oath of Druids?
It depends
Turn
on
off
how
the
bad the
spirit
cards
tokens.
in your deck are.
Yeah, that's fair. He's got a couple situational things that might matter, but
Depends on how you're feeling about Consecrated Sphinx also.
it's a bizarre approach to sideboarding Brian Kelly's taking, by the way. He's just leaving his winning board position on the table. Is that a mind game?
I think he just keeps looking at it, going, how did we get to this point? My opponent time walked and played Jace. This is how the game ended.
It's pretty funny. Brian Kelly's sideboard has nothing relevant. He's Sudden Shocks that can kill a Notion Thief. Maybe bring in Sudden Shock to kill Notion Thief.
I would.
Thanks to the Spielwind, I don't know that changes.
Sudden Shock to keep your opponent off Jace Ultimate.
Sure.
The misstep, I think, is worthwhile.
Okay. I'll buy that. Again, though, his main deck doesn't really have bad cards. Maybe take out the Ancient Grudge. It's not really for this matchup.
Right, it seems like it does very little here.
Interesting stuff.
Wow. The Ultimate almost got there game one. We're going to see if we can get there in game two.
I mean, don't tell anybody, but the Ultimate would not have won the game. There was Jace, Dak, and Griselbrand in play.
Like,
Fine, my deck is my library is now my current hand.
if that Jace works out, if it's not double Force of Will,
Okay.
I think he gets there. He gets to Time Walk.
For the Time Walk, yeah.
He ticks up again.
The Snapcaster
He
had resolved.
He kills the greatest thief in the multiverse, and I think he just goes off with the Ultimate with like one card in hand.
Sure. Yeah, the Snapcaster line almost worked. That's true. Snapcaster
Yeah.
for Time Walk would have gotten there before Brian had resolved
I'm not saying
Jace
on the
of his
last
own.
time, on the last turn we were almost there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that line came double Force of Will away from working out.
Fair.
There are a lot of lines in Vintage that don't
Use the
beat-
double Force of Will.
Oh, double Force of Will.
Yeah. True story. And Brian Kelly's board is still there.
Yeah.
Okay, now shuffle these in.
How does this work? Why are they? Whatever.
Robert Greene has already finished shuffling and presented. Brian Kelly has just finished cleaning up from game one.
Well, okay. So I'm pretty sure all the cards that were in play at the end of that game are still in his deck.
Right. He actually did give away information with this line. He knows that he didn't get sideboarded out. Robert knows. He's paying attention.
I don't know if he had left that repeal in play the entire time. Because actually knowing whether or not the repeal is in is pertinent.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're just going for the rub-ins, isn't the repeal the card you want face up for the guy to stare at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty funny. And shuffle cam.
We have seen a lot of the shuffle cam, but you know what? You're in the finals of the Vintage
Yeah.
Championships. You're definitely gonna shuffle to your heart's content.
Sure.
What? My captain in the living room? No. Yeah. Arc.
Robert Greene was on the draw that last game. He gets to play first this time around.
Yep.
Do you have any updated take on the matchup at this point?
I put Brian Kelly as a pretty big favorite at this point. I think one of the big swings here was Notion Thief, and I do believe he'll bring in the sudden shocks for it.
Okay,
I think that helps a lot.
makes sense.
There's the Engineered Plague.
Okay, brought it in to make sure.
I'm not sure this hand's a key. It's not a keeper. Top of his deck looked like Soul Ring and a couple of Moxes, but not any longer.
How about D6?
Those 6 don't... Oh, there is a land there. Okay. I was going to say, they don't look very exciting, but... And there is a Notion Thief there, if we get to that point. Notion Thief, Pyroblast, Force of Will, and a Mana Drain? Seems a fine start. Another Force of Will. I'm not what you're looking to see there, but...
Land's pretty nice.
Yep.
And so he's got Mana Drain Pyroblast.
Yes.
Do you have anything to sink the mana into if he gets off a Mana Drain?
I mean, if he wants to drop a Notion Thief, just leave it in play.
Pyrite Spellbomb.
I love it. That Notion Thief? Yeah, I have zero intention of losing to it.
It's actually kind of relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian may just cycle it away. May also leave it in play for a while.
Depends on his hand. I mean, if he's running out of lands to light, then I think you definitely cycle it.
Right. But if you can afford to leave it in play, you're much less vulnerable to Notion Thief. I mean, even if Notion Thief resolves as a response to, you know, a Jace, a Dak, an Ancestral, whatever, if you kill it before your effect resolves, the Notion Thief doesn't actually do anything.
Right. I mean, so he's already won the Counterspell War over that. There's nothing to do about it once it's in play. There's no Stifles or Trick Binds or anything flying out of your opponent's deck.
Right. 2 mana for Oath of Druids.
Certainly a decision to make here.
You told me he had a Mana Drain.
I could have been mistaken. I mean, it's really hard to see at this angle.
Okay.
He may have been hoping his opponent would force back and he could Mana Drain that. I don't know.
Yeah, without a Mana Sink for that, I don't think he pitches. Must not have a Mana Drain. I think that might be a Dig on the top of his deck. Of his hand.
Oh, I wasn't sure if it was Dig or Consecrated Sphinx or what it might be.
I do think Robert has to fight the Oath of Druids.
I agree.
But now he got 2 for 1,
dangerous.
right?
Yes.
It's too dangerous. You got to fight.
Oof. Come after a third of your mana, just Ancient Grudge it.
That Sapphire? Yeah, I don't want you to have Mox Sapphire. I want you to have 2 mana, not 3. What are you going to do? You can't force this. Really?
What are you going to do about the flashback?
There's a tropical island over there.
Let's not pick a fight we can't win.
Oh my god. Force of Will, removing Snapcaster Mage in an effort to defend Mox Sapphire from an Ancient Grudge.
So he's hoping he'll flash it back now, and does he Flusterstorm? I mean, and just for that, it doesn't even matter if he's Flusterstorm. If you wait until upkeep, it's still going to get flustered.
Does have the Flusterstorm. That Mox Sapphire defense cost him Force of Will, Flusterstorm, and Snapcaster Mage. But it is going to work. I mean, he knew the flashback was coming.
There's still decisions.
He had a plan. He knew the flashback was going to happen. It's not like he just Force of Willed because he missed the flashback. He saw it and had a plan. And he feels like that Mox Sapphire, he's got to defend his lands right now. Brian Kelly ships the turn back. Greene fetches out a land and goes for a Vampiric Tutor. Interesting.
So what do you Vamp Tutor for here, assuming it resolves?
I was going to ask you that question.
Beat you to it.
All right, Ancestral's response, but Robert's got a Pyroblast. No Ancestral for you. Wait, no, I really want an Ancestral.
Yes, this is why I wanted to find out what happened to this Ancestral before I mental misstepped that Vamp Tutor.
Exactly. Yeah, if Ancestral had resolved, I think Brian Kelly would have misstepped the Vamp Tutor.
Yeah, sure.
But first, let's defend the Ancestral. Now, wow, he can dig? Is that what that is? Put down my hand, pick up my graveyard, and count?
Oh.
He's got a Flusterstorm too, right? Yeah, Brian just has to decide if he wants this Vamp to resolve.
Yes, Flusterstorm too, wow.
And he decides no. Not quite sure exactly what you're going to get, but I know I can Flusterstorm the Vamp Tutor.
Right. Who knows if I can Flusterstorm what you're going for?
I see Kelly's wolf.
So Robert Greene draws whatever his top card was, ships the turn. Yawgmoth's Will. That's funny. Didn't have to Vamp for it, just drew it off the top.
Yeah.
Not bad.
All those cards are in his hand?
Yes, that is his hand. And Robert's hand is the one Yawgmoth's Will, face down on the table in front of him.
No, as funny as it is, it kind of looks like that Yawgmoth's Will.
He doesn't do
It just depends on what he hits off a dig. Doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, the Yawgmoth's Will is a land and a Vamp Tutor right now. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually do anything.
Yep, that's pretty terrible. Yeah, he has just decided, even with Sudden Shock in hand, the Spellbomb is staying right here.
He's so far ahead.
Is that a library? And a Lotus and a Ponder?
All right, dig through time comes up with a couple of cards.
Is that just Lotus Aryak Salvagers and the game is just over?
If it is, it is. Black Lotus, Aryak Salvagers. Infinite mana,
Boom.
infinite Pyrite Spellbombs. Combo assembled. Brian Kelly is your 2015 Vintage World Champion.
Huh? Out of nowhere, just dig into the pieces.
Dig into the combo. It was Lotus Aryak Salvagers.
Great.
That's awesome.
See a little Oath, see a little Bomberman,
That's awesome.
and get a Mox Emerald in return.
Wow, yeah, we will try to get a chat with Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Get him over here. Congratulate him on his win.
Thank you to everyone at home for sticking with us until
Oh my
the wee
God.
hours of the morning.
This has been so much fun.
Yeah, Incredible weekend.
13 rounds of Vintage, 3 rounds of Legacy this morning.
Yes.
16, I guess we only covered like 14 or 15 of those 16 rounds. A couple of them overlapped, but been a great weekend.
Great event, great weekend. Really impressed how everything was run, how
Agreed.
the rounds just kept going. No real problems, no real hiccups. Great event, again. I mean, one of the big reasons that Eternal Weekend grows like this every year. Just always known to be a great event.
And apparently you're just supposed to play Oath.
Yes.
Oath has won back-to-back, although I mean, this Oath deck, pretty different from last year's Oath of Druids deck. It's more than just the like, oh, all Vintage decks are 10 cards different. I mean, just a totally different take on what matters in the archetype and a lot of sort of fine-tuned numbers. 3 Force of Wills, right? The Bomberman combo. Cool deck, Dragon Lord Dromica.
Yeah, I think very cool. I mean, we never saw the Dragon Lord in play.
No, we didn't. We heard about it off camera a couple times, but never actually saw it in play. It's a cool list.
It's a great list. A lot of fun. This is the kind of deck I could play 13 rounds of Vintage with.
I'll buy that. Maybe a couple rounds come November. Get Vintage Super League back up. You might dust off the Oath of Druid skills, right?
I think my new goal
Yep.
is to ultimate Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's where I want to be.
That costs you like 6 cards. Every time you ultimate Jace the Mind Sculptor, it means you decline to brainstorm 5 times. Sorry, but
Details.
that's the math. How the math checks out.
Goals are goals.
Fair enough. Awesome.
Wow.
Come on in, Brian.
Come on in.
Pull up a chair. Yeah. Congratulations, man. Great job.
Thank you very much, and it's really nice to meet both of you.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Vintage champ.
I've seen you guys both on the VSL. I love that show.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, talk us through the finals from your perspective. Let's start on game 1. He plays Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Time walk off the top. Jace.
What are you thinking when Jace resolves?
I'm thinking he's going to overwhelm me in card advantage, and he started Fate Sealing.
So what did you think when he went Fate Seal?
I thought he might have been thinking that the way for a control deck to deal with Oath of Druids is to land an early Jace and keep either the Oath or the Orchards off the table.
Okay.
Because Jace is a very legitimate strategy against Oath of Druids.
Sure.
But I think you would have benefited him to brainstorm like crazy with that and just bury me in a card.
So you're pretty happy that he went with the Fate Seal plan.
I was.
He almost pulled it off. Did you? Wait, you got a little scared there.
The
You had
double
to.
Force of Will turn.
Yeah.
When he goes for the
that
Snapcaster
made it
on time
really
walk?
close. After the double Force of Will turn, I mean, I think there was a point where you had deck faded in play, and we kind of looked at each other. Okay, who's the favorite here?
Yeah,
we
we
both
both
agreed
had
it was
you.
you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Now, game 2 had to feel great. You just kept pulling
It
farther
did.
and farther ahead.
It did, because Force of Will is not that great of a card. Like, you don't want to be him to Toraking. I call it Force to Torak.
Forced to Torak?
Yeah.
We saw you only have 3 in the deck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 3 because it is a combo deck, and you know, Storm combo decks, if they dilute themselves with too many pitch counters, they don't function. It's like, I'm supposedly more resilient, but now I whiff on Time Twister and Wheel of Fortune all the time. So, a little low key on the Force Will.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense. So yeah, him Force of Willing, essentially forced to Toraking himself just to defend a Sapphire.
Sapphire. I thought maybe he was going for Jace, and I didn't have a counter for Jace. I had any.
No, I mean, it got a Force of Will, a blue card, and a Flusterstorm
I understand.
for just the Ancient
Sapphire.
Grudge.
I definitely boarded in the second Ancient Grudge. And I was a little bit nervous because Oath is strategically very well positioned against Shops and Gush, the token decks. Like, just the thrust of it is, okay, you want to make some tokens? Well, I'm gonna bring in this demon or this dragon, or I'm going to bring in my Vault and Key is Auric Salvagers. It's like I Oath him up and I end the game on the spot.
Yeah.
Right.
But a Grixis deck actually has threats that like I have to be really afraid of.
Okay.
So it's not a strategically lopsided match like Delver versus Oath. It's more of a 50-50 kind of match. It could go either way. So I knew I just had to have everything line up. And I don't know how you can win so many matches in a row. Like, I don't do big tournaments all that often. You guys probably have, but
Look, this is a big win for anybody. That's
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
Magic and a lot of
What do
wins.
you
You should be.
You came in as the #1 seed. Just came through the top 8. What deck in the top 8 were you most worried about having to face?
The Dredge deck and the Grixis deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
No problem.
Yeah.
Just took out both of them.
Yeah, I have no control over what happens with Dredge. It's like I do my best and I put it out there, and sometimes it just doesn't matter.
Makes sense. Now, give us your quick bio. Like, how much Magic do you actually play?
I used to play in the 90s
Okay.
a lot. My brother and I played. We did local vintage tournaments in the mid to late 90s.
And in what area were you from?
Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Got
We're
it.
from Wilkes-Barre, the bigger city.
Sure.
It's not Scranton, it's actually Wilkes-Barre.
Noted.
Well, we sold out when we were in college, and then I tried to get back a little bit a few years later, but basically we had sold sets of power that we weren't using, and then got back in and then sold them. So 15 years later, I moved to Central PA after my roaring 20s were over, and I'm in a very wonderful relationship right now. So I don't have time, and I'm done with school. Like all of that is done, and so my life is much more settled. And not going out clubbing all the time. I have so many examples, and I just thought there's this vintage tournament nearby. This was 2.5 years ago at the Players Guild, where Sean Griffiths runs the events. And I had such a good time. And then I went back again, and I was like, this is really great. Yeah.
This is 2.5 years ago? Mm-hmm. And just haven't stopped playing vintage ever since?
It's been great. It's been great. Yeah,
Oh, that's
so fun.
spectacular.
Wonderful.
How many times have you played this tournament?
Twice.
Twice now?
Yeah. I played in 2013.
Okay.
And in 2014, I scheduled it in October so that it wouldn't conflict with Champs, which had been in November the previous year.
Okay.
And so I scheduled a cruise in October.
Oh,
and then I found out Champs was actually in
moved.
October, so I couldn't be here.
Okay. Well, worked out for you this year, and worked out for you this year. Wow.
I guess so.
That's incredible. I mean, great deck.
Thank
great
you
job.
very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the deck is, not only is it good, it's also gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job. Now, they're turning the lights out on us. I think we may be drawing to a close. About 1 in the morning here. It's been a
It's
great
1
day
in
of
the morning?
Magic. Yeah?
Yeah.
You didn't notice? No, I think you've been in the zone for a while now. It's kind of awesome,
I've been
actually.
playing Magic since 9 in the morning.
Well, you won a lot of rounds. Congratulations to you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Enjoy that
Congratulations.
painting.
I appreciate it.
and you'll have that title forever.
I can't believe it's real. It's just no, come on, 480 people, me, 480. Everything's gonna go right for 10 matches in a row. I'm like that. It's like the lottery.
It happened.
And then somehow it
You
became
really did
real.
win.
I don't even know what to say. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. For Brian Kelly, for Bob Maher.
Thank you to my friends, to Calvin, who let
Please.
me power because I haven't bought it all back since I started. To Justin Kohler and Matt Murray, who are my best friends, like in the universe, related to this. And someone's pointing at me.
No,
and
it's all good.
David.
You're just getting thumbs up.
And to Card Titan.
Everybody's
for this,
happy.
Just, I don't know, amazing. Pardon my inarticulate nature right now. I've been playing Magic so long and I'm really tired.
All right.
Great.
Great stuff. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
And yeah, Card Titan has put on an awesome event.
Oh, it's been great.
Bob and I have enjoyed it. You've clearly had a good time.
The Dark Confidant.
We are going to bring things to a close.
Yes.
See you guys, more or less the same time. We don't have the dates for Eternal Weekend next year, but as soon as they come out, I know I'll be putting it on my calendar.
Right.
You'll have it on yours. I got to think you'll come back to run it back next year, try to defend the title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't believe that lightning strikes twice, but I will come and have a great time.
Indeed. Cheers, guys. We hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you all next time.